From inside the State Champs studios on the campus of Lawrence Technological University, Sean, we can finally say it. Welcome back to State Champs Hockey Time.
Oh, this is awesome. It's so great to be back. It's so great to be back with you. Already some games are underway. I can't wait to get out and see some games in person. John, this is going to be so much fun in the regard that this is a sprint to the playoffs. It really is. And it's going to be great. I mean, you guys were great, helping to make this happen. And you're going to make it count now. And this is going to be a fantastic season. I know it.
All of our State Champs programming is presented by Lawrence Technological University. You can recruit yourself at ltuathletics.com. Shout out to the Alta Equipment Company, the presenting sponsor for Hockey Time for the second year in a row. Sean, I like that beanie on your head, man.
No, these guys know me all too well. I'm a hat guy. Everybody thinks I'm bald because I wear a hat. No, I have plenty of hair. I just like hats, and this is in the collection, so thanks to the guys from Alta.
All right, and also the Michigan High School Hockey Coaches Association. Mark Vellucci, the president of the Coaches Association and the head coach of Novi, will be on later on in our Coaches Corner. The Michigan High School Athletic Association, the Physical Therapy and Sports Medicine professionals with the Detroit Medical Center, and the Detroit Athletic Club Foundation. Applications being accepted now for the Michigan Male and Female Athlete of the Year Awards until the end of February. You can win up to $5,000 in scholarships. Get all the information at dacathleteoftheyear.com. Before we get going, Sean, this is our Michigan High School Hockey preview. First off, are you okay sitting in the chair?
I hate chairs. I do. I like to stand and use my hands and get all fired up and everything. But no, hey, are you kidding me? We're talking about something that I know is near and dear to your heart and mine. So I'll put up with it.
And also, too, we got to get Joik out at a game this year.
Yeah, I'm sure he'd love to come out. We've talked about going to a game, he and Darren McCarty and myself. Okay. So, maybe we'll yank him out at a game real soon.
And Sean, in last year's preview, you gave me a hard time because I saved the downriver area for last. You know what? Let's start them first. All right, in the Metro League, in the West Division, we talked a lot about Riverview last season, led by Gavin Holmes. In the East Division, we had Woodhaven. The story there was the solid goaltending play by freshman Kenna Borzo. She is back behind the net this season. Allen Park has had some solid seasons in the Metro. Grosse Pointe Woods University League, which you're going to be talking about here in a second. They made it to the Division III quarterfinals last year. They've returned Doug Wood. Expect a much improved squad over at Wyandotte Roosevelt.
Yeah, it's very exciting. I think Riverview last year was one that you saw take a step up, and I think a lot of that has to do with coaching. They put together a fine staff there. Woodhaven's been a really good story the last couple of years. I mean, some of the talented players that have gone through there, so you have to keep an eye on them. The Jags have been tough. There's no doubt about it. They play a feisty style. I've said this before. I'll say it again. I like the way they play. I think they have a certain style to them. Liggett was phenomenal last year, and the thing is they have the guys coming back too. Guys that his younger players last year made a big statement on the stage. So the encore is an interesting question. But you know what else is an interesting question? I don't think those guys are going to sneak up on anybody this year, and I think, to be honest with you, I think they kind of like it that way. So that's going to be very interesting to see. I'm really intrigued to see what the Bears are all about. Wyandotte Roosevelt is a team that has so much pride. They won the championship 10 years ago. I think anybody will tell you Mike Quint is one of the good guys in the ranks as well, and just a good human overall. So I'm really intrigued. There are a lot of teams down there, John. The best way that I can put it, I think there are a lot of teams down there that are capable of knocking somebody off along the way. Now, are one of those teams capable of going all the way? I think that's asking a lot, because right now the conferences all look a little top-heavy, in my opinion, but they're all capable of knocking somebody off along the way. And then you know what they say, when you get in that one-game type of situation, anything can happen.
Two teams over the last 3 seasons in the Metro League has made trips to the Division III Final Four, and that has been Detroit Country Day and Riverview Gabriel Richard. Country Day, still the 2-time defending state champs. And also, too, you got to talk about the job that Ricky's done over at Gabriel Richard.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, let's start with Country Day. I mean, it doesn't seem like that long ago, John, that first year before they won the championship, I told anybody that would listen on the show, look out, this team's good. And it's very hard to make me look smart, but I want to thank Frank and his squad over there for doing that. And boy, I'll tell you what, I remember last year, about a year ago, right around this time, we were out in Trenton for the showcase, and man, did I miss that this year. And you and I were watching Country Day, and I said, here they are again. So it didn't surprise me that they eventually got back to the point that they got back to last year. And no, you're absolutely right. Gabriel Richard is another one of those teams. They play a certain style. They do. And I hope you take that as the compliment that it is. There's a reason that they've taken the long runs that they have. And I think it starts with, as you mentioned, Ricky and his fine staff getting guys to play the right way. And now it's expected. You know, I mean, that's the difference. John, we talk so much about usual suspects, right? Not that long ago, Detroit Country Day wasn't a usual suspect. They are now. I think Gabriel Richard is kind of getting to that point right now where it's expected. You know what they're going to bring to the table. And if you don't bring your A game, they're going to knock you off.
Another team outside of Downriver, Dearborn Unified, the job that Coach Brian and AJ has done over the years. Just remember last year, Jason Crossland in that regional semifinal against Salem.
What a fun game that was. That was arguably one of the funnest games I saw last year. And I remember I was down in the tunnel after the game and talking to the coaches and some of the boys and everything, and the dejected heads. I guarantee you they remember that feeling. I guarantee you they remember that feeling. And they're going to be the better for it as they try to bring that program up a notch. So that's going to be fun to watch for sure. All
right, let's go to Washtenaw County. Ann Arbor father Gabriel Richard that also plays in the Metro League. Clint Robert is back for his third year behind the bench for the Fighting Irish. There's always a battle in the SEC conference between Dexter and Chelsea in Division III. And you got Livonia Stevenson, assistant coach Kyle Sagata over at Saline.
You bring up, I think Clint is a really interesting story because if you recall last year, that was a team that was this close. They were this close. And what I mean by that is game after game after game, whether it be a one-goal game, whether it be an overtime game, finding a way to turn some of those close losses into wins is going to make all the difference in the world. I talked to Coach Zagata last night. I'm really intrigued to see what he can do at Saline. And, he told me he's excited about the team. He wants to see some consistency develop as the season goes on. And that's tough to do when you're talking about this short sprint. But he wanted me to let everybody know, keep an eye on Ben Wild and Lucas Evans, two of his finest. And, the one thing about Ann Arbor, John, and we've talked about this the last couple of years, it's a heck of a lot of talent out there in Ann Arbor.
Let's go to the west side of the state. Great hockey over the area. It's been since 2011 since the last time a state champion came out of the west side of the state. That was Grand Rapids Catholic Central in Division III. They made it to the Division III quarterfinals last year. We've talked about Forest Hills Northern Eastern. They have gone to USA Hockey Arena over the years. They're rivals. Forest Hills Central's, solid team. They got a new coach coming in this year. East Grand Rapids is another team. And then we have Rockford, who made the Division II quarterfinals, and Byron Center, who made it all the way to semis in Division I.
Yeah, it's interesting. In asking some of the people out there that follow it very closely, the consensus seems to be more often than not, John, maybe there's a team that people are picking, but a lot of people are saying Forest Hills NE or Rockford might be at the top of the heap. I mean, I think the Rams have done a fantastic job in recent years. I've been told by people, I wish that in this shortened season I would have the opportunity to go out there and see it, that there are really some players, that there has been an influx of talent coming in for NE as well. That's what I want to see. I heard a lot of good things about Muskegon Mona Shores, that this is a team that could make a battle. And EGR is another team. East Grand Rapids is, we've seen them take some steps. Are they ready to take the next step next year? And, you mentioned it already. I think the job that Mike Slobodnik has done at GRCC, really speaks for itself. But from what I'm hearing, it's kind of Rockford and maybe Forest Hills NE, stepping back into the right direction. The one thing that you've seen out of Coach Bissett's teams is they've been really good and they've made those runs. Are they ready to take the next step? And a lot of people that I talked to said this influx of talent with this team is going to make things interesting in that division.
All right, let's make our way to Northern Michigan. Over the last few years, lots of parity in the Big North Conference. Alpena, remember a few years ago with Cooper Black, that run they made. You got Gaylord, Cadillac, Petoskey, and of course you got Traverse City West and Traverse City Central duking it out for city bragging rights. And you also got the Bay Reps who made a run a couple years ago.
Yeah, it's fun to watch, and all of those teams have been able to make some inroads. I always like to see what Coach Givens is going to do at Traverse City Central. I mean, obviously the guy, he's one of the finest humans you'll find, and certainly a legend in this game. And that was a darn good team last year. Alpena with that run, but they they kind of proved it wasn't just Cooper Black. They had some nice wins along the way, so I think that they're building something special there. There's some good hockey being played up there in the northern lower peninsula. Don't sleep on some of these teams. Remember last year, Traverse City West was a team that had some big moments as well. So, John, I'm intrigued to see what a Gaylord's going to do and what a TC West is going to do. And that's the fun part about this, because in years gone by, we've had the opportunity to maybe see some of these teams, whether it be in Chelsea or whether it be down in Trenton. We don't have that opportunity this year. So I think, unfortunately, unless you can jump in your car and go see some games, this is going to be a situation where it's going to be some word of mouth, and it's going to be fun. So sorry to some of you coaches, I've already bugged you incessantly. I think John and I are going to be bugging you even more in the next couple of weeks.
State Champs is located on the campus of Lawrence Technological University. If you have the dream of playing college sports, Lawrence Tech offers 24 NAIA varsity sports and the most valuable undergraduate degrees you can earn. Academic and athletic scholarships are available, and you can recruit yourself at ltuathletics.com. A new program starting at Lawrence Tech next year is women's hockey. I'm joined by the head coach at Lawrence Tech, Greg Moore. Greg, welcome to Hockey Time.
Thanks, John. Glad to be here.
All right, first off, tell me a little bit about yourself.
So I originally grew up in Minnesota, in the suburbs of the Twin Cities. Played high school hockey growing up. When I graduated, I decided to forego the junior route. Just wasn't really for me. Went to an NCAA Division III. Played 4 years at an NCAA Division III. Was lucky enough that I got my first coaching job in my alma mater right after graduating. And lucky enough to secure a full-time job there for 10 years. Coached at St. Mary's University in Winona, Minnesota for 10 years. Last year I was at a university in Great Falls, Montana, trying to start an ACHA program there. And unfortunately, due to COVID reasons, it was discontinued. Lucky enough that the job came open at Lawrence Tech, and here I am.
So how it came about when you found out about Lawrence Tech?
It was funny. Like a month previous, they let me know my program was being discontinued, but they offered me a position as a men's assistant coach, which I was very grateful they were even offering me a position due to COVID and everything like that. It was very fortunate for that. But women's hockey is my passion. That's what I grew up doing. It's where I started my career. It's what I wanted to continue to do. So I saw the position open up at Lawrence Tech to start a program in the suburbs of Detroit, and I was like, hey, I like suburbs of Detroit. This seems like a really good opportunity here, and so went through the interview process. They offered, and lo and behold, here I am.
And just talk about, there's about 20 high school girls hockey programs in the state of Michigan. Just talk about the growth of high school hockey in the state of Michigan.
Yeah, it's amazing. I spent a lot of years recruiting out of Michigan, mostly out of the Tier 1 AAA teams when I was in Minnesota, and just watching it go from where it was when I first started to where it is now with like you said, close to 20 teams now, and how competitive it is up and down. It's really fun to see the growth of women's hockey in general, and to be in a great hockey state like Michigan. It's really nice to see that kind of play for community kind of feel, and not so much the Tier 1 AAAs, even though those are very important to the state of Michigan as well.
And just talk about, with everything that's going on with COVID this year, I'm sure recruiting has been very interesting. So just talk about how you've been going about, recruiting kids.
Yeah, unfortunately, when you start a brand new program, one of the best benefits that I have is I'm a pretty personable person. I like to talk to people. I'm very easy to talk to. So being able to go to games and actually talk to the kids in person and talk to parents in person is a real benefit for me, just because I'm able to do it so well. And so when you take that ability away, and now you're essentially doing cold calls from recommendations you get from coaches or the online recruiting services, it makes it much harder. It's just when you talk to somebody on the phone, you can't see their reaction, you can't see what they're feeling. So it's been very difficult to kind of get those contacts, essentially cold calls, in a year like this, instead of being able to be there in person and see the kids in person and talk to the parents. So it's definitely been interesting, but we're getting through it, and hopefully now that Michigan's back up and running, and then it'll be a little bit easier as we go through the home stretch here, February, March.
And just talk about that. How excited were you as a coach to hear the news that high school hockey is back in the state of Michigan, boys and girls?
It's been a journey. I think my first day was November 1st or November 2nd, and I think like 10 days later the governor shut it down, and it was like, oh goodness, how am I gonna recruit with the whole state of Michigan shut down? So it's definitely added a little bit of a twist in the journey, and hearing the governor lift the limitations on contact sports, it really brought a big smile to my face, knowing that my life was going to get a whole lot easier, but now a whole lot busier going to watch games and stuff like that.
How can a potential recruit reach out to you?
My contact info is on the website. Emails or phone calls are always good. We do have a recruit questionnaire on our website as well under the Recruit Me site. So if you fill that out and I get those notifications and you fill that out and I get a hold of you somehow, let me know you're interested and I'll make sure I get out to see you play.
Thank you very much, Greg, for joining us here on State Champs Hockey Time. And remember, you can recruit yourself at ltuathletics.com. All right, let's continue our Michigan high school hockey preview here on Hockey Time. And we go to the UP. Marquette, they had a solid season in 2020. They made it all the way to the Division II semifinals. Kingsford, the Flivers, Sean's favorite nickname.
Love that nickname.
Love that nickname. Here on Hockey Time, we have talked about over the last few years, there's always been three teams that we've talked about in that Division III regional: Hancock, Calumet, and Hope.
And Hancock, under a new coach, started out the right way. Calumet's going to reload. There's no doubt about that. Dan's done such a good job there. And Corey Markham, another one of those guys that's been there forever and nobody has a terse word to say about, is going to have a good team with the Gremlins as well. So that's what's so fun about this. And as anybody can tell you, these are teams, forget about saying UP teams, they're capable of beating anybody. I've heard wonderful things about Marquette. You and I saw them last year. If you remember, they had a freshman goaltender last year as well that really opened up some eyes. I've heard wonderful things about Marquette this year. It's funny, John, every year you and I talk about this. There are always teams that you kind of put a circle around. You're like, ooh, I really want to see this team because I've heard about them. So many people are talking up Marquette right now. So what are they going to be able to do for an encore? Look, the reality is there's a real good chance. I always feel sorry for the Division III teams. I'm going to continue to say it. I think it's a crying shame that only one of those teams get to come down because more often than not, there are a couple teams that are as good as anybody in the Division III ranks. But, John, this is one of those years I think there's a real good chance multiple teams from the UP might find their way down to USA Hockey Arena this year.
All right, and we make our way back to the Lower Peninsula in the mid-Michigan area. Jackson, Lumen Christi, Okemos, and the Capital City Capitals in the South Central League. Those are the top contenders in that league this year. And you got teams in the Mid-Michigan Conference like Fenton, Linden, Tri-Valley, and the combined squad of Freeland, Novell, and Swan Valley. And in the Saginaw Valley League, Midland Dow. We talked about them a lot last year. Davison and Flint Powers. Team up there is Saginaw Heritage, and you got to talk about the job that J.J. Bamberger has done over the years. And they got a tall task this year. They got to replace Mr. Hockey and Brady Rappoon.
Phenomenal. I mean, absolutely phenomenal. There's no doubt about it. Flint Powers is a team to watch in that area. Midland and Midland Dow are two teams that you've seen go like this. And, I've talked to a few people and they said, hey, listen, that's going to continue. But, it really does begin and end with Saginaw Heritage. And the one thing that J.J. Bamberger has working for him, John Michael Watson is back. And you might remember last year, this is a guy that just simply doesn't leave the ice. J.J. Bamberger, the head coach of Saginaw Heritage, told me he's the fastest recoverer I've ever seen. In his words, he just doesn't get tired. Got to remember, he also has a couple of guys that have made it to USA Arena all 3 years of their career, and they're trying to make it 4 for 4 this year. You want to talk about leadership in the room. I mean, that's huge. But here's the thing, and I think Coach Bamberger would be the first one to say it. John, those teams that you mentioned, you're seeing it go like this. Yeah. This is what happens when you have a force like Saginaw Heritage, kind of burst upon the scene and become a usual suspect, is it makes everybody else around you get better. And so they're all going like this because they've seen the fine work that they've done. But, again, when you're talking in that area, I think that Travis Perry always has good teams at Powers. And some of these other teams, the teams that you mentioned earlier, are teams that you saw them make some steps. Are they ready to take that next step? We'll soon find out.
All right, back to Southeast Michigan we go as we take a look at the OAA and the MAC conference. In the OAA, we had a few teams that made your top 25 rankings last season with Lake Orion, Rochester United, Farmington United, and Clarkston. And in the MAC conference, Dakota and Eisenhower always going at it in the red division. And you also had L'Anse Creuse Unified, who made its farthest trip ever in the playoffs, making it to the quarterfinals.
And that's another fun tournament that we missed out on. I always love driving out to Mount Clemens. We were able to do it a couple of years in a row, and so much fun. And look, hockey hotbeds to say the very least, and the proof is in the pudding. When you see these teams go out and win some of the games they have, or at the very least, go play somebody tough, that people thought, oh, they're not supposed to be in a game like that. Now it's time to take the next step. I think, John, I can put a circle around a lot of those teams and say, you guys have been knocking on the door. It's time to knock somebody off come playoff time. And I think all the coaches out there would agree with that sentiment. It's one thing to play somebody tough, but when you start turning some of those tough L's into W's, that's when you're really going to make people notice. Guys like us, we're seeing it. We've gone out there. We've seen how good the caliber of play is and how good so many programs are out there. Make some noise by knocking off somebody at playoff time.
And we go to the Lakes Valley Conference. You got the defending league champs in South Lyon Unified, who went undefeated in the Lakes Valley last season. And you got teams like Milford and Lakeland in that division as well.
Yeah, South Lyon is interesting because if you remember that last year, they had an unbelievable top line. And their top line, if I'm not mistaken, all graduated. But they still have one heck of a player in Scamera out there. I think he scored 4 goals in the loss to UAD as we're taping this on Tuesday. And that's, listen, there's no shame in losing to a good team like UAD by a goal. The 8-7's a little crazy, and it makes me wonder if we should all be looking at the over on some of these numbers. I joke, I kid, but you know what, John, you and I were talking about this. I think early on in the season, you might see some crazy goal scoring. You might see something like that. If you remember when the NHL started, right? The first week, power plays were like this. Everybody's power play was clicking. So, maybe that's a case of you're going to see it filter down to the high school level. But no, listen, South Lyon was a team to watch last year. And again, I think what happens is that stuff becomes contagious. And, some of the surrounding areas go, look what these guys did and everything. So it's going to be fun.
All right, it's time now for our Coaches Corner, brought to you by our friends at the Michigan High School Hockey Coaches Association. I'm joined today by Mark Vellucci, the head coach at Novi High School, and he's also the president of the High School Hockey Coaches Association. So first off, just how excited is the hockey community that high school hockey is back?
The past week since we got the green light to go, it's been it's a sigh of relief. Again, I think we were at our tipping point of not being able to play, and once the news came out to give us the green light to go, it's been great for everyone involved.
How was your team when you told them the news that it was game on?
Yeah, they were jumping up and down. I told them on the ice right after practice that day, and word got out a little bit, but for the most part, they were pretty excited.
Now, you have a new role with the Coaches Association this year. You're now the president, so how exciting is that for you?
It's been great. The other board members I work with, Dave Mitchell, Don Wright, Bob Hall, and Mike Quint, and Ryan Osemacher, who just joined the association this year. We've had numerous Zoom meetings this year, and it's been we're actually kind of sick of seeing each other on a screen, but it's been great. We've done a lot of work behind the scenes. Quite honestly, a ton of work, and it's been great.
What ideas that you guys have been floating around over the last year to help grow the game of high school hockey?
We're working on with Cody Englis. We finally got seeding involved with the MHSAA and using the MPR system that will seed regional games this year. Not quite there, seeding the whole tournament, but one thing at a time. Similar to, I believe, lacrosse and other sports, basketball and soccer, I believe. So that's a huge, that's one of the big things we've been working on.
As the show airs on Wednesday, you already will have a game under your belt against Howell, and then you guys got your big rival game on Thursday against Northville. And just talk about the rivalry over in Northville. You guys share the same rink, and talk about, obviously you got a rivalry with Northville, but talk about the friendship you have with Gordy.
Well, he's been the coach here the last couple of years, and we talk all the time, and we have a really healthy, respectful rivalry. It's not a hate. It's more of a respectful, and we get along real well. We share rooms right across from one another. They skate after us in practice, and we're constantly communicating with them, and it's just a good relationship.
And finally, I always ask each coach this. Obviously, I've known you for almost 20 years now. I can't believe from your days at Farmington and now at Novi, how much you enjoy doing this each and every day.
Well, that's why we coach high school hockey. It's all the tangibles, the pros outweigh the cons in every which way. It's just being around the kids, the student athlete every day. We're not like travel. We're not there 3 days a week. We're there Monday through Saturday most days. And after the year we've had and the weight we've had, it's been much more rewarding. I'm really tight with this year's crew, the seniors especially, the 4 captains I have. And I want to thank everyone involved to get us back to where we're at. You can see by the kids' faces and excitement and the joy, and that's what it's all about, high school hockey.
All right, Mark. Well, thank you very much for joining us here on Hockey Time. Best of luck to you guys, this season. And that was our Coaches Corner, brought to you by our friends at the Michigan High School Hockey Coaches Association. All right, Sean, let's talk about the KLAA. Over the last 10 years, we've had teams from that conference making it to USA Hockey Arena. Howell, under first-year head coach Rocky Johnson, they beat Brighton in the playoffs, and they made it all the way to the semifinals.
Rocky Johnson, we've talked about him for a couple of years. I think he's great for Howell, and he's great for high school hockey. He really is. I think he's got an enthusiasm and an infectious personality that's great for the game. And, to me, the true test of how things are going is when you can lose some guys and just absorb it and keep rolling. And I think Howell did that last year, and they're only going to be better this year. I've had a couple coaches tell me, you better look out for Howell. That is seriously one of the best teams in Division I. And my response to that is, they were one of the best teams in Division I last year. You know what I mean? But
and it would have been interesting to see how they did against CC if they would have made it to the state final.
Yeah, and you know what? With that being said, are they ready to take a next step and maybe become one of those usual suspects? I think they are. I always love, and you know this, Coach Ossenmacher is a great guy, and I had a chance to talk to Ryan. He said this is the youngest team he's coached. It's only 5 seniors, but Grayshaw is a tremendous player there. Generou, their goaltender, I saw him shut out Northville in the playoffs last year as a sophomore. He's going to be ready to go as a junior. But the one thing that you can say about Coach Ossenmacher is he gets his boys to play. We've seen that time and time again. And they're kind of one of those programs, John, where we talked about it a few times during the show. They were knocking on the door for a couple of years, and then they started winning some of those big games. So are they ready to take another step this year? We'll find out.
And how about Heartland? There always seems to be there every year. They made it to USA for obviously the pause happened.
The job that Ricky has done, Ricky Gadwa, is phenomenal. And you hear me use this term a lot, usual suspects, all right? I think Heartland's the original usual suspect since you and I started doing this together. Heartland was a team 7-8 years ago, always in this cute. They made a nice little run, and golly gee, they came so close. Look, they're the measuring stick now in Division II. What do you want me to say?
And as of right now, they're still the 2-time defending state champs.
Absolutely. So, that's the point of emphasis that I'd like to make there.
And how about Livonia Stevenson?
Coach Mitchell has a lot of talent there. You got to remember last year that team was incredibly talented. Obviously had a high ranking all year, and they were a young team. Well, what does he have this year? He's got some guys that are a year older. What did he have to the mix? I think you have to put those two, in John, I'm going to say it again until things change. In Division II is this simple to me, okay? It's Trenton, Brother Rice, Heartland, Livonia Stevenson. Now, you might have somebody else. You might have Marquette that swoops in this year. FHNE might swoop back in again because they had been there for a while. But that's Division II to me. And when you look at it, you got 2 mainstays from the KLA. You got 2 mainstays from the MIHL. I don't think that's going to change. Who would I pick right now? Boy, it's tough to say because, we don't have as much information on these teams as we would normally have. So I think right now, in the interest of being fair, I'll put them all in a big bowl and say, let's shake that bowl up, cover them in sauce, and see which wing tastes the best when we come out. Really, that's where it's at right now because it's interesting. I was talking to people last night, and you talked to 5 different guys, and 2 guys said this team was the best, 2 guys said this team was the best, and another guy said this team was the best. So we're going to be able to find this out. I will say this, John. Win-loss is going to mean absolutely nothing going into the playoffs. It's going to mean less than it normally does. And what I mean by that is these teams are playing such a tough schedule moving forward that I don't think the record for some of those teams, whether it be Salem, I know we'll get into the MIHL in a second, Stevenson, Heartland, I don't think the record is going to mean as much as it has in the past.
And talk about also, too, we have Brighton, Kurt taking over for Paul.
Kurt, again, one of those classy guys. And having a guy that has been a part of so much success there take over, it's a seamless transition. We wish Paul all the best. I mean, what a classy guy, but Kurt is as well. You know that Brighton's going to be there. What's our quote about Brighton?
It's Brighton.
It's Brighton.
Yep.
It's Brighton. Like when Brighton shouldn't sneak up on anybody or surprise anybody. I mean, that's just what they are. They are definitely one of the usual suspects. And John, so early in the season to be able to take in, I'm going to be able to see Brighton twice in the next week. That's pretty cool for me.
And also, too, we had Coach Verlucci on. He was talking about Novi. What are your thoughts about Novi?
If Novi can get a little more scoring, they are extremely dangerous. They're dangerous as it is. I think everybody saw that last year. Austin Muirhead. John, we had an up-close and personal seat for it. We got a chance to see him when we were out in Chelsea. And then I went to a few games down the stretch. And you might remember I told anybody, listen, you better look out for Novi when they are rallying behind this kid. Sometimes, John, in this game, a team plays differently for a different goalie. Yep. That team played differently for Austin Muirhead last year, and that game against Stevenson was absolutely epic. It went to 59 overtimes and everything. If they get a little scoring, you better put their name in that group. You know that bowl that I talked about, that wing bowl? Throw Novi in there as well, right? And let's see how much spicy garlic gets on them. That's my jam. And let's see how much spicy garlic gets on them. But they're going to be dangerous. Make no mistake about it. I'm interested to see what Gordy does with Northville. I know I'm going to see Northville and Novi on Thursday, and that's really intriguing.
And you got a new coach over at Plymouth as well.
Absolutely. And you know what? Here's the thing. I'm so glad he brings that up. He's the smart guy, right?
Sometimes.
You see Canton go like this. What's Canton going to do for an encore? Livonia Franklin's another one. What's Franklin going to do? How about Jason Reynolds and Churchill? You know that this guy has made some darn good runs in the past as well. And Churchill absolutely, positively has to be worried about once the playoffs start. But, Canton was a team last year. You saw them take a step. Coach Vento, we hate to see a guy like that leave the game. But you know what? You know that there's some talent out in that area as well. So that's what makes this so intriguing. The way that Franklin finished the season. Can they build on that? That's going to be fun to me. So KLA is a fun division. I think we covered everybody, right?
I believe so, and that will lead us to the MIHL conference.
Still the best. You know what? I know all my KLA guys are probably going to get mad at me saying that, but facts are mean, and MIHL is still the best out there.
Talk about the MIHL South Division. You got the division champs, UAD Jesuit, with one of the top players in the state in Max Marquette.
Yeah, it's interesting. I as I said earlier, I don't know what to make about their win over South Lyon. You never apologize for a win, and I hope Cubby fans, you understand where I'm coming from. Was this a case of South Lyon being better than maybe people thought? Maybe that's the case, but a win is a win. So I'm going to be UAD is one of those teams that I have a circle. Like, John, I don't know about you. I have a little schedule at home, and I've filled up my schedule with games that I can go to. I want to see the Cubbies a couple times. And what can we say about Trenton? Seems like the last few years we pick them not to win in the quarterfinals, still end up getting to the Final Four. The job that Chad has done over the years. They return players like Caleb Knighting and Colin Preston,
but they have to replace our player in the year in Joey Cormier, the goalie.
Yeah, not easy, but if anybody can do it, I've said this before, I say it on record, I think the world of Chad. I think he's just a class act. He's a guy that is going to win a championship. It's going to happen. There's no doubt in my mind. Is it this year? Well, as I said, for me, I think you put them in that bowl in Division II, and you say, okay, well, which one am I picking out? They've been able to absorb losses. They turn up their game in playoff time. And if you don't believe me, ask Livonia Stevenson. Period, end of story. I mean, what Livonia Stevenson and Trenton has become is great for Division II. I think it's great for high school hockey. But what's interesting about it is Stevenson has won the game in the regular season, and a couple times convincingly, but in money time, Trenton found a way to get it done. And last year, very convincingly as well, down in Dearborn. So all the respect in the world for Chad. You can't ever count out Trenton. I know there are certain assistant coaches that would like us to pick them each and every year. It doesn't work that way. There's no doubt about it. And truth be told, wouldn't you rather be on your side?
And also, too, in the South Division, Sean Clark is back behind the bench over at Warren De La Salle, Grosse Pointe South under Paul Moretz. You know, they had a solid season. And
that was my team last year. Remember, I saw them early. I was talking them up.
Yeah, they were a mainstay in your top 10 rankings.
Yeah, and you know what? Again, I think when you get the opportunity to see a team early on and you see the talent that they had, and they had a ton of talent last year, and they still have a lot of returning talent, but they're a team, in my mind, my humble opinion, I think they kind of got to a plateau and stayed there. They didn't take that step last year. It's interesting, John, because I think when you talk about some of those teams, there are some of those teams out there that are you ready to take that next step? And I think you just mentioned a couple. GPS is definitely one of them.
And in the MIHL North Division, you got one of the favorites to win that division in Brother Rice. Like you said earlier, the Bull, they're one of the favorites in Division 2. The 2019 Division I state champs in the Detroit Catholic Central, and you got to also look out for Cranbrook.
I've heard nothing but good things about Cranbrook and that they're supposed to be vastly improved. They're another team that I have. Brother Rice, I mean, again, the job that Kenny's done is phenomenal. Brett Harris, Peter Rosa, Brown, Hamady, they've got a fantastic group of junior defensemen that are coming back in Herb, Ducharme, and Ursini. I'm really, really intrigued at Brother Rice. Look, we're never going to know the answer to this, okay? I think if we played the Division II semifinals and finals last year, I felt that Brother Rice was the best team out there. And it's a shame that we never got a chance to do that. And my heart still goes out to those seniors. If you're watching, man, my heart goes out to you guys. I thought that Brother Rice was the best team there last year. And that, again, no disrespect to Trenton, no disrespect to Marquette, no disrespect to Heartland, who had won back-to-back. Brother Rice is definitely in that mix. John, I'm not trying to cop out. Give me a couple weeks to kind of see some games and look at some results. It's so hard to pick a favorite right now. Yeah. It really is, and I'm not trying to cop out. Yeah. I'm not going to burp out a name for probably a couple weeks until I get a chance to see some of the teams play, or at least look at all the results. I wish I could clone you and me so we could go to all those games, because I'd go over to the west side, I'd go up to Saginaw and say hi to JJ, I'd go up north. And here's the problem. If I went up north, I'd probably stay up north, anybody that knows me. But all jokes aside, you have to put Brother Rice right there, if not at the top. Heck of a lot of talent, and they upgraded some talent, but you could say the same thing about Heartland, Stevenson, on and on. And
just talk about CC, just talk about the great job that Kalanick has done over the years.
It's not an easy job that Coach Kalanick has to put up with. I mean, the expectations at Catholic Central, we all know what they are. Win a championship or you're a failure. I mean, really, that's kind of the mentality. And I think the way that Coach Cal has conducted himself on the bench and away from the game and been an ambassador of the game is awesome. And I'm proud of him for it. But you're absolutely right. I had somebody say to me, and I'm not going to say who, but somebody who is a coach in Division I say to me, look, Catholic Central's still the team to beat, but if there was ever a year to get them, it might be this year. What I know about Catholic Central is this: maybe they don't have that bona fide stud, or he hasn't revealed himself yet. I know this: they are deep. And in a short year like this, they might be able to grind you out in something like that because he can just go and go and go and roll them out. I love his goaltending as well. So in my mind, is Catholic Central still the team to beat in Division I? You bet. But I think we're going to find out if they don't have that extraordinary player, and they've had some extraordinary players the last couple of years, does the group come closer? That's going to be an interesting story moving forward.
And don't forget about Orchard Lake St. Mary's as well.
Yeah, and I think for the longest time, if you remember, it was like Brighton seemed to be their kryptonite. Brighton was always their kryptonite. They always met at some point in time in the playoff, whether it be at Orchard Lake or whether it be at Brighton, and it seemed like Brighton always got the best of them. That's something that they're going to definitely have to keep an eye out for. I don't know what it's going to look like. My guess is, some of the brackets are going to look like as they have in the past and everything, but no doubt about it. Talent is never a problem at Orchard Lake St. Mary's. I've seen some of their teams in recent years really do some great work. I think for me, Orchard Lake St. Mary's finding some consistency, and that's tough to do in the MIHL. It's easier said than done, but they're a team that, when the playoffs start, you better look out because they can run you.
I think we got the whole state covered here on this
preview.
Did we?
Did we get everybody?
I think we did. Sean, I wanted to get your thoughts going into the season.
I'm going to say it again. Props to you athletes out there. Be smart. Don't have the plug pulled. You guys fought so hard to put yourself in the position. Now follow through. Now do whatever you can to keep that game safe and show the adults out there that you guys are the responsible people that we know you are. I want to give a special shout out to the athletic directors. I think the athletic director, you guys are awesome. I mean, not only the way that you help us, but the way that you serve your community. And, I say this every year, so I hate to sound like a broken record. John, if it weren't for the coaches out there and being so accessible, listen, I'm going to tell you a story. There wasn't one coach that I texted in the last 2 days that didn't get back to me like that. Not one. Thank you. Seriously, thank you. It makes our job easier, for sure.
So that's it for State Champs Hockey Time. There's many ways to watch our show. You can watch it on our website, statechampsnetwork.com, our social media channels on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. We'll have parts of our show on our Twitter page. And you can download the new State Champs app that is available on iPhone and Android, and it's also available on Roku, Fire, and Apple TV. So, Sean, are you ready to do this again next week?
Let's go. See you at the rink.
State Champs Hockey Time is presented by Lawrence Technological University. LTU offers over 24 varsity sports for men and women, along with several dozen world-class undergraduate programs. Athletic and academic scholarships available in all sports. Visit LTUathletics.com and recruit yourself. Also presented by Alta Equipment Company, Michigan's #1 construction equipment provider with over 40 brands. Get the right equipment for your project every time. Also brought to you by the Michigan High School Hockey Coaches Association. For all things Michigan High School hockey, go to the hub, MIHSHockeyHub.com. The Michigan High School Athletic Association, promoting the value and values of educational athletics. Detroit Medical Center's Physical Therapy and Sports Medicine team. Do you have a sports injury, or are you just looking to take your game to the next level? Go where the pros go. Visit dmc.org/gamechangers. And the Detroit Athletic Club Foundation. Applications being accepted until the end of February for the Male and Female High School Athlete of the Year. Find out more and download the application at dacathleteoftheyear.com.